Residential assisted living is not just a real estate deal with a side of caring. It is a care business that's wrapped inside a real estate investment.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor! 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 Doctor!
Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. Alex Schloe.
Hello, everyone. It is Dr. Alex Schloe today with a solo episode of the 𝗪𝗰𝗵𝗹𝘶 Assisted Living Podcast. And today, I wanted to pull back the curtain on my own journey into residential assisted living. I want to give you 5 things that I wish I knew before I got started. Some of these, when I say them out loud, sound completely obvious, but they weren't obvious to me at the time, and they cost me money, time, a few sleepless nights, and certainly some of my hair. So if you're interested in keeping some money, buying back some time, and not going bald, I will encourage you to listen to this episode all the way through. Because if you're earlier in your residential assisted living journey than I was, consider this a shortcut. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is 5 things that I wish I knew before I started in residential assisted living. Look, residential assisted living is not just a real estate deal with a side of caring. It is a care business that's wrapped inside a real estate investment. When I first started looking at residential assisted living, I was looking at it the way that I looked at every other real estate investment I had made up until that point. The cap rate, the debt service, the cash on cash return, the loan terms, and these numbers matter. But the thing that actually matters, whether a home is going to succeed or to fail, is not the real estate. It is the operations. Residential assisted living homes will live and die by their operations. And to be frank, I am not a guru in this space. I don't know everything about operations, and we have partnered with some really amazing operators, and we have partnered with some very poor operators. But I can say we have learned a lot in the space. And you need to know that staffing, care quality, census, or how full your home is, and regulatory compliance are very, very important. I had to relearn how to underwrite a deal in this space because the real estate is actually the easy part. The operations is where things get a little bit more complicated. And this is a line that I come back to all the time with our members in the 𝗪𝗰𝗵𝗹𝘶 Assisted Living Mastermind, is that this is not a get-rich-quick model. It is a build it right, and if you serve seniors with excellence, it can create financial freedom for you. And if you're evaluating your residential assisted living purely as a real estate spreadsheet or a real estate deal, you're going to miss the variable that actually makes or breaks the investment, and that is your operations. So this leads perfectly into number 2. The operator relationship will make or break you, and I underweighed that early on. Look, I can find a good property. Most investors with a real estate background can find a good property. But what I underestimated was how much of the entire return profile of the home rides on who is running that day to day. A great operator can take an average home and make it thrive. A weak operator can take a great home and run it into the ground financially and reputationally. This is incredibly important regardless of how you decide to invest in residential assisted living. You need to have an understanding of the operations, and you need to know how that impacts your bottom line. If you're going to own and operate, you're going to be much more responsible for the day-to-day operations. If you decide to lease to an operator, you need to still understand operations, but you also have to understand how to vet an operator and make sure that they are a good fit for you. This is incredibly important and something that I did not learn the full extent of until later on, and it has cost me a significant amount of money, time, and stress. Vetting an operator is a completely different skill set than vetting a property. And nobody taught that to me. We had to build this from scratch, mostly through trial and error, unfortunately, but we learned the key questions to ask and how to find and vet an operator. A few things that can be beneficial for you is to first certainly make sure that the culture is aligned. Unfortunately, there is a lot of money in the assisted living space and the opportunity to generate really substantial returns, but this does lead to a few bad apples in the space. And unfortunately, a lot more than I could have ever have imagined. Some people get into this business just for the money and they don't realize that what really matters is providing high quality care. So you need to make sure a potential operator, first and foremost, has the heart to care for seniors and to care for them well, and that their culture aligns with your vision. Then you can start looking at some of the other things like their financial qualifications. What does their financial statement look like? What does their credit look like? What does their criminal background check look like? All these things are going to be really, really important for you as a vet and operator. And there's a lot more nuances to this, but you have to build for that culture first and make sure that that alignment is there, or this will never work for you. All right, number 3, not every submarket wants or can support another assisted living home. Now, the supply-demand mismatch in assisted living is absolutely massive. There is anywhere from a 545,000 to 1 million bed shortage, but that does not mean that every location at a micro level is ready for another residential assisted living home. It can be easy to assume that demand for senior care is basically universal. We have the aging population, we have the growing need, and you might think, wow, I can't miss. I can just open this up anywhere I want. Well, that is directionally true at the macro level and completely misleading at the micro level. There are submarkets that are already saturated. Some have demographics that do not support private pay assisted living. So that's not going to lead to the returns that you need most commonly. Some have regulatory environments that make licensing a multi-year-long process, and you have to figure out how to finance that process. How can you fund a multi-year-long process to get licensed? So look, you need to learn how to do a real market evaluation. That's looking at the competitive density. How many homes are in your area compared to how many seniors who need high quality assisted living? What does the payer mix look like? Is it fully reliant on Medicaid, or do you have the opportunity for private pay or perhaps a combination of both? What are the demographic trends for your area? What does the aging population look like? The median income? What does the migration look like into your area? Are tons and tons of people moving out, or are people moving in? What does it look like in terms of healthcare resources in your area? And then, of course, what do the local licensing timelines look like? Before I ever look at a specific property, you need to figure all this information out and understand what that looks like before you waste time on a specific home, because you don't want to end up with a home that you just simply can't fill. All right, number 4, an empty bed is not necessarily a marketing problem, but it is the most expensive line item in the business. Look, this is a mistake that hurts operators the most because it is fixable once you see it. You need to treat marketing and resident acquisition as something that you figure out immediately. As soon as you start, as soon as you decide you want to invest in residential assisted living and you know where, that is when the marketing starts. Oftentimes, folks do this in the wrong order. They get their home up and running and then realize, oh man, how am I going to fill the beds? Because every empty bed is pure cost with no offsetting revenue. And the homes that struggle are almost always the ones that do not have anybody who owns the marketing and the lead generation system from day one. And that is incredibly important. You have to understand that isolation is expensive. That's true for the seniors that these homes are built for and who they're built to serve, but it's also true for the business itself and the beds that sit empty. You're not going to be able to sustain a runway of a significant deficit in your business if you have a lot of vacancy in your home. So you have to start marketing from day one, keep your occupancy up, provide high quality care, get great referrals, and then it's going to be a self-fulfilling process. You have a great culture, you provide great care, you get great reviews, families refer you, and then you continually stay full from that perspective. Number 5 is you do not have to learn this by trial and error. And honestly, trying to do a residential assisted living investment on your own may be a very expensive mistake. Every one of these first 4 lessons costs time, money, or both. And this is because initially when we got started, we were trying to figure this out in isolation. The single biggest accelerant for me was not a better deal or a smarter spreadsheet. It was getting around other people who are already doing this well. Operators, investors, developers who've already made the mistakes I was about to make. That is the entire reason the Rouwroom Assisted Living Mastermind exists, because one home can fundamentally change your financial future, but only if you build it right. And building it right is a lot faster with people who have already done it, sitting right next to you, in community with you and holding you accountable. So look, if any of this resonated with you, if you are sitting on capital, sitting on curiosity about residential assisted living, or you're already in a deal and you want to avoid the mistakes I just walked through and more, the best next step is to join our free webinar. We'll walk through exactly how residential assisted living works, what makes a good deal, and how the Rouwroom Assisted Living Mastermind helps you skip the expensive trial and error phase entirely. This webinar is going to be hosted at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. So make sure you sign up, completely free. We'd love to see you at the webinar. Look, this is it for the solo episode, but I want you to build wealth, serve seniors, and design a life that you love through residential assisted living. I'll see you next time. Take care. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial or medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.